A Fox News alert as a stunning Friday afternoon before a holiday weekend document dump comes out from the FBI just now, releasing documents about what they learned during their investigation of Hillary Clinton's email server. And these 60 pages are indeed stunning. This is a third hour of Happening Now. Happy Labor Day weekend to you. I'm Leland Vittert, in for John Scott.
And hello, I'm Laura Ingle, in for Jenna Lee. The nearly 60 pages of documents are heavily redacted and include notes from Hillary Clinton's 3-hour interview with agents back in July, as well as documents related to their recommendation not to pursue charges against the former Secretary of State. FBI Director James Comey has harshly criticized Clinton, but stands firmly by his agency's decision. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge joins us live from Washington. All right, Catherine, what have you learned so far? You've got through a lot of this.
Well, this is the 302. This is what the FBI calls its summary of any interview that's conducted by their agents. There's no transcript. The FBI does not traditionally record interviews, so this is a summary that the agents put together and then they sign off on it for headquarters. And one of the criticisms coming into the release of these documents is that the FBI agents who questioned Mrs. Clinton never really pressed her on this issue of intent, why the server was set up in the first place, and how she felt this was consistent with maintaining federal records and also the handling of classified information. And based on the 302, this criticism is very valid. She talks about how it's convenient, but there seems to be no follow-up from the agents as to why she thought this to be the case and how this in any way was going to protect classified information. The other main headline reading this document is that on critical points, Mrs. Clinton seems to have forgotten or simply cannot recall for agents what the specific training was for classified information. And I'll read one section for you. She tells the agents that she can't remember when she got her security clearance and whether it was carried over from her time in the Senate then to the State Department. And it reads in part, Clinton could not recall any briefing or training by state related to the retention of federal records or the handling of classified information. She also goes on to say that she was briefed on what are called special access programs. These are the most closely held intelligence programs that the U.S. government has. But she says she can't recall the specific training that she received or any kind of briefing for the handling of such sensitive information. She goes on to say at one point that she never believed that classified information was sent to her because she relied on her aides not to send anything sensitive. And she could not recall for agents how it was in the first place that this ClintonEmail.com domain was set up. So on these critical questions, she has, in almost every case, sort of a lapse in memory on the details, Laura.
And Catherine, in terms of the top secret emails themselves, have we learned anything new about these particular top secret emails?
Well, one of the things that's striking in this 302 is that if you have been watching Fox News, many of the stories that we broke here on Fox News, she's asked about these specific points of the intelligence in her interview with the FBI. She was asked about the drone program. Those sections are heavily redacted, but we now know that would have been one of the special access programs that was discussed on Hillary Clinton's unsecured server. There's also a section where they ask about an American military officer who was killed in Afghanistan. We reported on this case because we understood that this was an example of human intelligence reporting that was discussed on the server. We now know that this person had cover and was working for the CIA, so they essentially outed him after his death in the Clinton emails and exposed his family to grave risk, Laura.
All right, Catherine Herridge, thank you so much for us to all wrap our heads around. Thanks for breaking that down for us.
All right, for more on this, Chris Steyerwalt, Fox News digital politics editor, joining us from D.C. You can always count on the FBI to, shall we say, make Friday afternoon pretty interesting before a holiday weekend.
Well, Washington does like to take out the trash on Friday. The turkey drop, as it is also sometimes known. You take the bad stuff and you put it on the curb right before everybody leaves town.
Well, you say they're doing this, but the FBI is supposed to be nonpartisan. They're supposed to be completely independent investigators, and that's the one thing that James Comey kept relying on. Is it then just a coincidence that you do the so-called turkey drop on Friday afternoon, or do we have to think this was planned by the FBI, therefore making it a partisan act?
I highly doubt that this was planned. I highly doubt that James Comey wanted to do anything to make Hillary Clinton look better. I would certainly chalk this up to bureaucrats who get rid of something at the end of the weekend and then leave town. Everybody's done. They'll drop it off and then be gone.
All right, so now we get to the substance of this, and you think about Hillary Clinton's excuses that are now detailed in that 302 when she talked to the FBI. She couldn't recall. She blames her aides. In one of them, she actually says in December of 2012, Clinton suffered a concussion, then around New Year had a blood clot. Based on her doctor's advice, she could only work at State for a few hours a day, and once again, the magic words, could not recall every briefing she received. At some point, do all of these excuses, when given to the FBI, because if she lies to the FBI, it's a crime, so she had to get creative there, these excuses don't jive with some of the other things that she's done, like sign a non-disclosure agreement. So the question is, do these inconsistencies matter?
Well, look, if you call in sick to work, you can't get caught going to the beach. If Hillary Clinton says that she can't recall and that her fall and blood clots interfered with her memory for a period of time, she can then not also claim that she is robustly healthy and ready to dive into the work of being president of the United States. You can't have it both ways. This will give her opponent in the general election another way to go after her health and her fitness and her vigor. We have two of the oldest candidates running for office in memory, and I'm sure that her citing a bad memory and physical ailments as a reason for not recalling things is going to be good fodder for Donald Trump.
Well, yeah, you think about another quote here from the FBI summary. Clinton could not recall when she first received her security clearance, and if she carried it with her to State via reciprocity from her time in the Senate. Clinton could not recall any briefing or training by State related to the retention of federal records or handling of classified information. All over the internet is the copy of the non-disclosure agreement she signed back in 2009 saying, I've been briefed, I understand, on and on and on and on. That seems to be a ready-made attack ad by Donald Trump or any super PAC supporting him.
Well, look, we want to be generous in spirit to human beings who sign a lot of things and get a lot of briefings. But you are right. As you go through these documents, as you look at how often she could not recall things, you start to imagine that if you were briefing a person for a meeting like this, that you would say, look, if you can't be sure or you think that the answer might jam you up, just say, I don't recall. I don't recall is the standard, by the way, legalese and in Washington. I don't recall isn't I don't remember, it didn't happen, it's just I don't recall, and that is the way that you block further inquiry on the subject.
Right. So obviously there's a political calculation there. Do you try to walk around it, or do you just say I don't remember, and that doesn't leave the FBI a lot of places to go? This, though, also goes to a different issue than simply recalling. It's what happened to Hillary Clinton's devices. And remember, she said famously, I wanted to use it out of convenience because I only wanted one device. Well, it turns out there was a lot of devices. This from the FBI report. Abedin, meaning Human Abedin, and Hanley indicated the whereabouts of Clinton's devices would frequently become unknown once she transitioned to a new device. I mean, even college kids know to wipe their iPhone before they give it to their buddy.
And we don't know whether the phones were wiped or what the condition was or whether she knew or didn't know. But what's funny as you go through this and you get how bad Hillary Clinton's first press conference on this subject is and how bungled her response has been to all of this from a political point of view, that rather than making a clean breast of things and getting on with it, yeah, I screwed up, I did the wrong thing, and all of those, the dissembling and now the shambles of a story that she ends up with, oh, I only wanted one device for convenience sake. Actually, never mind. So she's got a big problem when she eventually does have to give the press conference that she's going to eventually have to give, is that reporters are going to know all this stuff, and she is going to have better answers than I don't recall.
273 days since the press conference. We'll see if it happens anytime soon. There's really kind of a lot of different parts to this story, and we've been talking about this for a long time, Chris. But one of them is there's a real chance that there was harm done to the United States. It's one thing to try and cover things up, or perhaps you don't want people being able to read your email sort of selfishly. It's another thing if that behavior ends up really hurting the country that you're supposed to be serving and the people who risk their lives every day to do it. James Comey talked to that exact point. Take a listen.
She also used her personal email extensively while outside the United States, including sending and receiving work-related emails in the territory of sophisticated adversaries. Given that combination of factors, we assess it is possible that hostile actors gained access to Secretary Clinton's personal email account.
And now reading from the report to that point, forensic analysis of alert email records automatically generated by CloudJacket, one of the programs that she used, revealed multiple instances of potential malicious actors attempting to exploit vulnerabilities on the server. So where does that go? What happens all of a sudden now that you have the big question out here is, does someone else have all of Hillary Clinton's emails, not just the ones that the State Department released?
Right, and Hillary Clinton made herself an enormous target in doing this, and that was really the greatest reproof that you heard from Comey and throughout his testimony and throughout the press conference that he held, basically to say, if you read between the lines on what he was saying, it was, I can't prove that she was hacked and that foreign bad actors got into her email, but she probably was. And just because we don't have proof of that, now the danger for Clinton, of course, is that the proof will come in the form of the release of the emails, and that one day, and she has to go through every day of this campaign looking over her shoulder thinking, is today the day? Is today the day that Vladimir Putin does this? The other thing that she did was made herself vulnerable to fake emails because of all of this and BleachBit and whatever is tumbling around on her former server and out in the wider world. What's to stop somebody from dummying up some emails and saying, oh, I got these and this is what she said? She put herself in a terrible, terrible situation with this stuff.
And now I'm going to ask you to do a little bit of analysis on the polls. We only have a couple of seconds left. So much has already been known, including everything that James Comey said before even the convention, and yet the DNC nominated her to be their nominee and run for president. At some point, has the electorate become immune to all of Hillary Clinton's email woes? Is this just something we all talk about inside the Beltway, as outrageous as it might seem? Or at some point, is this going to break through and perhaps even send her honest and trustworthy numbers lower than they already are?
How could they go low? I don't know how they would go lower. I will say this. Hillary Clinton has ended up in a position where cooked into the price, her stock price as a candidate includes all of these liabilities. I don't think there's anything in this that is going to change that. I don't think this is going to change somebody's mind that it's worse or it's better. But what I do think is, and you referenced this earlier, this is more fodder for more attack ads, that once Donald Trump's campaign gets some money together and starts running, I think that just the things that you mentioned, as well as others in this report, will come out and be shoved in the faces of voters to say, you don't trust her, and you can't vote for her. Because right now there are a lot of people who say they don't trust her, but they're going to vote for her anyway.
Well, Chris, if you thought you were going to have a holiday weekend relaxing, I think you got a little bit of work ahead of you, my friend. See you in D.C. Thanks for being with us.
You bet.
All right. Laura?
All right, NBA star Dwayne Wade calling for better solutions to rising gun violence in Chicago. This days after his cousin was shot and killed. Why the Chicago Bulls player is also speaking out against Donald Trump. Plus, other players following Colin Kaepernick's lead, refusing to stand for the national anthem. How Kaepernick plans to continue his message with a major donation.
At our Labor Day sale, take an extra 50% off all clearance. Plus, buy one, get one free on almost everything in the store. And Traveler and 1905 suits are $229. Plus,